So let's just discuss the possibility of immortality. I mean, this is not something that you do that's like magical, or it's something that you just do like a hocus pocus that you see on TV, like with Harry Potter or Sabrina the Teenage Witch, any of those. The immortality is not something that you actually see on TV. Immortality, I guess to put it in the most simplest word, it's alchemy, which I never really liked the word alchemy because there's a whole new age, baggage behind it. And then it turns off some of the people who are very, very Christian. And so they'll completely like discount it because it has that connotation, it has the baggage. And so now I'm trying to find a very like neutral type of way to explain what immortality is. And that is biohacking, which is one of Kevin's words that he's using to substantiate all of my information as well as his information. There is the so biohacking, and then there's chemistry, and then there's biochemistry, and there's the laws of the immune system. There is, understanding elements, understanding nutrition. And so immortality is absolutely a possibility if you actually understand all of those laws like separately, and then how they all interact with each other, because we do live in a world where everything is connected. There is nothing that is separate. Chemistry is not separate from math, which is then not separate from, physics. Because we have physics, we have chemistry, we have math, we have biochemistry, so we have anatomy and physiology, right? And they all have to speak to each other. But then you have the English language, which then really confuses people, because the English language is a type of programming. And so when they talk about immortality, it has so many different connotations and contexts. And relative to your belief system, which is based upon the English language, you're going to have a conversation about immortality that may go against your programming. You're going to look at immortality as something as, if you're a Christian, you're going to look at immortality as something occultic, something satanic. And then you'll immediately discount it based upon your background, your programming. So that is why the English language is probably, or any language really, or no, I'd say the English language, because that's all I know. I don't know Spanish. I don't know, German or anything. But with the English language, they have so many words that have worlds. And when words have worlds, they have a programming. And so I've had some issues with using words like alchemy, because there are words out there that, that definitely will trigger someone into thinking Satanism, because I already see it. And there are people that think I'm nuts because I mentioned immortality. I mentioned that reproduction is a sign of a low functioning immune system. It's like they can't wrap their mind around it because of their religion. So, so now I have to really use science and math and physics and chemistry as probably the best angle to work from. Because that is, and even then people will be like, oh, science, it's so like satanic and so illogical. Or, it's logical, but there's going to be people who think that, science has, which it does, it has its own programming too, because there are ways in science to make a person think that a symptom is one thing when it actually is something different. And that's where the intention comes into play, and that's when specific measurable results come into play, and that's why there's a word purpose that comes into play. So then you have to then start pulling the right words together. Excuse me. No different than when you're on the internet and you're seeing all this information coming at you at once, and you're like, what the hell do I believe? And then you stay within what you know, your safe space, right? Well, eventually when you start actually calming down, you're not emotional, you're not reactive, and you look at things logically, You can then go and research behind some of the information that's on the internet. No different than the words that are being used. When you actually calm down and you're seeing all these words are being used, especially in science and in the current programming today, and you break down these words to figure out what the hell they're talking about, then you start realizing what exactly is going on. So right now, immortality is completely impossible in the holistic and the allopathic market, which is basically 99.999% of everybody out there that is in our world that subscribes to. They subscribe to the allopathic and the holistic market. And the allopathic holistic market have a protocol, have methodologies that are completely antibiotic. So of course they're not going to look at immortality as anything possible because it doesn't even fit in the physics and the chemistry of their methodologies. Their protocols are completely anti-life. Do you see that death and cancer and disease is basically in every single person out there right now that are practicing the allopathic and the holistic stuff? Do you see these people who are on CBD oil 24/7 degrading very fast? Cancer and disease and chronic illness is part of the whole package with the allopathic and the holistic market. Those two beget each other. So of course, you're never going to see any protocol creator out there in the allopathic or holistic market ever entertain immortality. It is completely like not even possible, because the reason being is because of what they were taught. For you to be a naturopathic, a homeopathic, an allopathic doctor, when you have doctor or a licensed practitioner, you are taught by a system that always has death as the outcome, no matter what you do. It's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, packaging and repackaging for every generation that is new, because every generation is dying and they're not passing information that is really important down because they're dead. All the data that everybody has acquired over a course of their lifetime dies with them. And so the industry and the system and the markets out there rely on the each generation dying, so that way they have a new market. Look at your kids. Those of you who are in right now the matrix, and you know who you are because you practice allopathic holistic stuff. You're doing either pills, powders, and supplements. So pay attention. Your child is now a new customer. They're not going to know that CBD oil is antibiotic unless you teach that to your child. But if you don't teach that to your child because you're not looking in that direction, or you're not even exploring that, guess what? Your kid is now a new customer of the allopathic market. And then they will end up just like you, growing old, degrading in the system, contracting cancer, disease, and chronic illness at some point, if it hasn't happened already. And then guess what? All the mutations that you hold inside your body right now gets passed down to your kid, because nobody is doing anything different to reverse and take care and heal those mutations. So yeah, immortality is basically blasphemy out there in the current market, because death is very lucrative. Death is a huge business. And I'm looking at my newsfeed and I'm seeing all of these sponsored ads for guaranteed life acceptance insurance. People are clamoring to pay somebody money so they have at least $10,000 or $15,000 to leave to their kids, so they can get buried or pay off some bills or have their kid go to college or invest in some kind of next venture. They are clamoring for that. It's like they're asking, the system wants you to ask them the best way to die and the best way to leave the earth as peaceful and as, financial, debt-free as possible. There is no money when people don't die and are not sick. You have to realize that. That's why immortality will never, ever be accepted by any health practitioner. They'll call you crazy. They already call me crazy. But guess what? These health practitioners make a lot of money between $250 all the way to $800 or $900. And so Kevin said something that was very, very, very astute on his level, which he's very high level. And there was a quote that he said that I want to read. Should have had this set up to begin with, but that's okay. I'm off the cuff with all this stuff. So yeah, so I wrote that the awesome thing is there's no practitioner who will ever coin or use the word possible immortality with any of their protocols, because they could not substantiate with their antibiotic methods. And so this is why no health practitioner or naturopathic or allopathic, which is basically mainstream doctors, or homeopathic will ever really align themselves with me. Even some energy healers will not at all coin my information. They will not even put my information out there. I know some energy healers. That will not at all promote me. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I support you." They'll shine me on. But when it comes down to it with actually their protocols, they will never ever reference me, because they have a business to run, and I recognize it, and I'll call them out on it, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, whatever," but I don't worry about it. So this is why no health practitioner or naturopathic or allopathic or homeopathic will ever align themselves with me, who also sell protocols or services, because they would have to admit that their methodology was really ineffective. Now, here's the thing. They might have very low expectations. So we rise to the level of the incompetence that's out there. And there are a lot of incompetent health professionals out there that have very low expectations, and they make money off of people's low expectations. And then of course the industry knows that antibiotic methods are very short term, and that's why they keep rolling out the new antibiotic detoxes and new drugs, because they know the body is going to finally adapt, and then you won't have that pain-free and symptom-free result anymore. So you have to go to a different drug, a different antibiotic, a different detox, and then it becomes a cycle until you die. And that's exactly what the healthcare, allopathic, holistic industry is all about. So Kevin, wrote, "Truth, the only health practitioners out there might ever align themselves with us is quantum biologists, yes, physicists, yes, and possible energy healers." Exactly right. Possible. Because they don't sell products. So the ones that do sell products will never ever promote me, because it would totally conflict with their business model, and they would have to then reconsider their whole world. And right now, they already have a standing in their community. They would really have to be so pissed off at the system to throw everything away. No, they won't throw away their bread and butter until all their until people wake up. Because what's going on is that you have generations of families seeing the same people, or the same type of people, if not the same person who's been around for like maybe 60 years. But they'll see the same type of people. And I said, yeah, that's very true, Kevin. What a very astute observation. Thank you so much for differentiating, because I do tend to group everybody together, especially when they sell products and services. I sell a book. I don't align myself with the trendy immunotherapies. I don't. When I see somebody selling a book in the allopathic industry, that's a patient who is like a multiple myeloma patient who is selling her journey on her, her whole thing with cancer and how she's going through all of these immunotherapies. And and then she's promoting it, and then she's bringing in doctors from her clinic and substantiating that they're so amazing, and she has all these mystery, symptoms that are going on because of these therapies and these experiments they're doing to her. She's still making money off of that book, and then she's bringing people into that fold, substantiating stem cells. So maybe she's not making a shiz ton of money off her, 5 cents per book, but you're bringing people back into the system that does make money off of people's bodies. So no matter what, even if you're not directly making money off of your whatever methodologies you're using, you're bringing people, you're the Pied Piper, bringing them to people who are making money off their bodies. And that right there is no different than actually being the one to make money off of somebody's body over and over and over again. I had to think about that because I had to figure out what exactly, because I knew that just because you're not making money off your books or making a shiz ton, but you're bringing people to industries that are preying upon vulnerable people. I have one book, and eventually I'll have 2 books that you can read, and then you can make that decision for yourself. Because then it's about a person making a choice. They have all the information, and they'll juxtaposition it together, and then they'll figure out what the right course of action is. Some people won't do this protocol because it would mean they would have to deal with pain and deal with stuff in the past. And not everybody's ready to face that. They have resigned themselves to eventually die. That's okay. But in the meantime, we get to watch their death throes. And it's really painful to watch because some death throes are more verbal than others. Some people will just die silently in the system and you won't know who they are. Other people, they will raise hell as they leave this earth. So just be prepared, all of you who are on the protocol. You're going to be watching people that are going to either die silently in the system or are going to raise freaking hell, and you've got to be very careful with the energy that you give to people who are in those death throes, because they could potentially bring you with them. And especially when you're at your most vulnerable state, when you are healing and you're dealing with the death throes of the worms in your body who are going to try to talk you out of this. And then you get with people who are in their final death throes trying to talk you out of this. So this is why it's so important to understand the science behind this, not just emotionally go into this because you're so desperate, you tried everything. You have to conceptually, intellectually, and physically and spiritually know this information is exactly what you want, what you need. And that's why there's a book. That's why there is a discussion forum with lifetime support. It's not billing you every month. It's not billing you even every year. You buy the book, and then you give us the email, the address that you have, you send us the receipt, and then guess what? You're in there for life. I mean, the reason why I did that is because I have 7 billion people on the planet, which I'm not going to get all at once. They're going to come trickling in. Believe me, I would love to have 7 billion people buy my book right off the bat. That would be freaking awesome. But no, it's going to be a slow trickle in, and maybe one day it may jump up when people finally realize, but I don't see that happening really that quickly. I don't. So I'm okay with where we are. Okay, I'm okay with where we are. Because we're going to see trickling in, because it's going to take some time for us to get any kind of testimony, especially when it comes to regrowing limbs and arms and organs and reversing Down syndrome and all of that. I mean, and then it's up to the person if they want to even come out and talk about it and say it and do it, you know, because there's so much backlash. So this is really for the, I don't say underground, but this protocol is really for the people, for their personal journeys, that is not meant to really go public. But at least it's there, okay? And at least everybody will have the opportunity to make that choice, and then their own immediate world will see the results based upon what they're implementing in their life. You're fine, Crystal. So yeah, I mean, so this is for, you know, for those people, you know, because in the beginning we thought we would, like, you know, I don't say get rich, but we thought we would have like this cash cow, and it really isn't a cash cow, because this protocol is directly correlative to the barometer of this system. Right now, we have a major population that still believes that death is always going to be an expectation, and that the only thing that they have concerns about is just reversing their specific symptoms, and that's it. That's all they care about. And since there's symptoms that are happening very early on in life, people are not going to look at my protocol for years. Because yes, they may reverse one symptom when they're like 20, right? They have, let's say, an autoimmune disorder because of the vaccines or something else that their parents passed down to them. So then they get this little cure or a little protocol from the allopathic holistic, and then they reverse that symptom. And then in the next 5 years, they get another symptom. Let's say they get, like, I don't know, another autoimmune disorder. Or let's say they get cancer. So then they go and reverse that or manage that or whatever. And then guess what? The next 5 years, and then they're going to be like 50. In the next 5 years, then, it's going to be another symptom. And it's going to be a continuous cycle of symptoms throughout their whole life that the industry is going to find a way to cure you, right? But as you are aging and degrading, and eventually, guess what? You will die. That's exactly the model the allopathic and the holistic world is. So that's why many people cannot wrap their minds around it, because they're so focused on the immediate symptom at hand. They don't realize that their body is actually a full, whole body with systems that are supposed to be speaking to each other, working as a cross-functional communication type of business process. No, they think their body is compartmentalized by the heart and the lungs, and they're all separate and they're not at all speaking to each other. No, that's the wrong way. But that is exactly the model, because that's why you're seeing kids that are afflicted very early on, because they are, like you said, Tanya, cycles of pills and doctors throughout their whole lifetime. So the only time people are going to come to my information is when their back's against the wall, or they're very intuitive, or they get and they're educated because they've already done research in other areas. But for the most part, the mainstream out there that are watching their, American Idol and watching football and hanging out in man caves drinking beer, they either will not get it at all, because that's not their, their whole little bubble of people, their little clique is all dying, so they're going to follow in their footsteps. Or they're just going to just die like that. It'll just happen. Because it happens all the time. People just pass away. Well, we don't even know they just pass away, because they don't really tell the world from beginning to end when the red flags came to be, to the point of when they actually passed away. So yeah, immortality will never, ever be used as a possibility in the allopathic and holistic world. So, and Kevin, you're right. Don't expect that people who sell modulators or electro machines are going to adopt my information, because the guy from OIM Radio has an electronic machine that he was using to heal his people. And that's why he not to do the protocol, as well as I'm sure the attacks with the trolls. Yeah, when somebody has an actual product at stake or a protocol at stake where they're selling money for it, they're not going to adopt my information, because it would conflict with their business model. So, yeah. And so anyways, as far as the book is concerned, so Kevin is really awesome. He's going to take an angle that I'm so glad he's taking that angle, because there are many angles to Jilly Juice. I'm covering more of the stuff that is like obvious, like what is yeast being used for, experimentation with the industry, and then all of the different, mutations that manifest, so people kind of get an idea to wake up and look around them. This is what it is, this is what's going on, and this is what they're doing. So they pay attention. And then Kevin's going to do a different angle on the science and the quantum biology behind it for the more science, analytical, areas of those people. And I'm more like maybe not say conspiracy, but more of just the people that are kind of awake and understand, but they're seeing another aspect of this, because there are a million ways to attack this. And we have so many different listenings out there. People listen from very different filters. I mean, look, it's the Tower of Babel. So with the Tower of Babel, you're going to have to speak to all of the different belief systems, speak to all the different languages. I mean, I have people who are New Age. I have witches on my Facebook who are Wiccan. I have Jehovah's Witnesses. I have super Christians, like born again Christians. I have Jewish people on my Facebook. I have academian people on my Facebook. I have holistic professionals. I have allopathic doctors. I have lawyers. I have teachers. I have so many different people out there that now we have to actually speak to all of those. And I have people who sell MLM products that are destroying their friends and family that I have to speak to as well, who don't give a crap because they want to make a buck. That's probably where I have the most triggers, is those that sell MLMs. Yes, we have humans, but we have humans that have filters. They have filters of programming. Every single household has a programming. You have a Jewish Democratic household, which is my household. That was my programming that I had to finally peel away. Then you have a Republican, conservative Christian programming in different parts of the country. Then you have, a Jehovah's Witness programming in other parts of the country. Then you have an African American Democrat in another part of the country. Okay, you got to be able to speak to all of their listening and make it land. And that is a major difficult feat, because you constantly have to figure out what arguments are going to be brought up from anything that I say. That's why I have to be very careful on what I say, because I know there's going to be some argument against it based upon who's listening. Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate that. She says, I love your straightforward approach. I hear others hiding behind words trying to say good things, but it gets lost in translation. Yeah, because you're trying to be politically correct. But there are some things on Facebook that you can't say because of community standards. So I try to not trigger those algorithms. So yeah, so I have to speak to all of these different listenings. We know we're all human, but it's all the different programming. That's why you have so many interest groups that splinter off. That's why you have like a Democrat Party that splinter off into different factions. That's why you have a Republican Party that splintered off into different factions. You have the independents, you have the conservatives, you have the patriots, you have the libertarians. And then you have the, there's another one about the Queen. You have so many different ones that you have to find a way to speak to all of them. Then you have the conspiracy theorists that I got to speak to too. And that is a major feat. So it's difficult to try to find a way to speak to everybody's listening. So the common foundation that I'm speaking from is the science that's already been substantiated out there with the government, because I tapped into what kept us alive for this long, and then I found out what causes death, and then I found a way to substantiate what causes life and what causes death, and then I found out the patterns in nature about life and death, and then I made those parallels to the human race. So it's a constant studying your whole environment. It's not just looking at one little thing and being tunnel vision, which is the weakness of the allopathic and the holistic industry, and the MLMers and the CBD oil salesmen, and then the pill poppers. They're very one-dimensional, very narrow, because they were never taught to look at everything as a whole. And that is the programming that I'm trying to peel back. And not everybody is going to fall into it. Not everybody's going to get it because of how mutated they are. And I'm okay with that. Maybe we need to let those go that are that mutated, that destroyed already. It's like the disassembling of the cells. It's autophagy. This protocol basically taps into autophagy. Right now, humanity is a walking mutation. That's right now what humanity is. So this protocol is purging out and disassembling the damaged cells, which are people in the system, and then we're regenerating new cells, which are people who understand my information, and that's exactly what this protocol is doing. It is basically tapping into autophagy. Because remember, everything is like this protocol is a microcosm of the world. It's a microcosm of what goes on inside of you. Everything, it's a pattern. It's that infinite symbol. Everything is related. You can apply all the same, theories and concepts to every single instance. So when someone doesn't get my information, that's just autophagy kicking in. When someone's a troll and wants to expletive me to, exponentially, that is autophagy kicking in, because their concepts of what they think life and death is going to take them out of the equation. That's what autophagy does. It takes cells that are not working with the whole out of the equation to allow for new cells to come in and regenerate and then maintain. So that's freaking awesome. That was an actual parallel that I had not used before. So you just saw my brain work right there in action. My protocol is autophagy in the human race. We are, and that's why we can't be too upset when someone doesn't understand the information. We give them the choice, and then if they choose to be one of those mutated cells that needs to be purged, they will do it. But at least we gave them the choice. And that's exactly what the Masons do. They give you guys a choice. The Masons, if you believe in the Illuminati and stuff like that, right? They always tell you what they're going to do. And then you make the choice on your actions to either help you or hurt you. But at least they tell you what's going to happen. They tell you that they're suppressing the immune system so you can live, a relatively quality life for a certain amount of time. They tell you that they're destroying you. And so we have people now clamoring to have their immune system suppressed because they have some kind of cancer disease, which they think is something bad. No, it actually is your body telling you that it's trying to heal, but you're not giving it what it needs. And so the industry is telling you, okay, we'll just suppress your immune system so you don't have those types of symptoms. And they do it in such a nice, pretty way with a nice smile, with their beautiful degrees in the background, in their nice big leather chair, in their nice office, because they're making lots of money off of people's ignorance. So I'm giving you guys the option. If you want to tap into autophagy to where you're like being purged, and fine. You can be the disassembled cell being purged. Or you can be one of those that regenerate, that self-replicate. Well, self-regenerate. Self-replication is cloning, basically. That's reproduction. But you can be one of those cells that self-regenerate. And not by stem cells either. I love these analogies. Oh, this is so amazing when you actually can make these connections. It's amazing. So I don't at all expect that there's going to be a huge spike in people understanding this information, because it is a calling. It is the Georgia Guidestones. There are going to be people who are so mutated and so destroyed that they won't possibly be able to understand, and then they will take themselves out of the equation. And it would be by their choice. And maybe, it's not their choice because of what was done to them, but anyone that's been exposed to my information with the possibility, if they choose not to explore this possibility, they've made a conscious choice. And so the system, Dr. Phil, knew this. And maybe unintentionally. PewDiePie, Daily Mail, Newsweek, Pathos, anybody else, they know this, and they're putting it out there. So you guys can make a choice, and that way when you make the choice, whatever it is, you can't complain when it doesn't have the outcome that you want. You made that choice. They gave you that choice. I knew I was on Dr. Phil for a reason, because Dr. Phil wouldn't put me on if I was just some fly-by-night idiot. No. There's a lot of people out there, they're doing like urine therapy. Do you see Dr. Phil putting them on Dr. Phil's show? No, Dr. Oz will do that so they can laugh at them, right? But no, Dr. Phil put me on there for a reason, because I know there is something to this. And even with the limited amount of science that I had articulated back in March, they still put me on because I had enough sound reasoning that they kind of saw where I was going. But they knew that this also would be very good television too. Very good television. But it still gives people the choice. All right, so no matter what, we will tap, my protocol is already triggering autophagy in the human race. So you can be either a mutated cell or you can be a self-regenerating cell. It's your choice now. Love you guys. Bye.